So I'm wanting to get into property. I understand it all. I'm just wanting to understand the risk element, how I'm able to embrace risk taking.
Yeah, very good question. When it comes to property, the risk, the anxiety or the stress only comes about when deals are not being done correctly. So let's say, for example, you identify a property that you want to purchase. What your job is to mitigate that risk. So you want to get enough comparables, you want to basically buy that property. So let's say you're buying that property for 100,000. You want to get 5 to 10 comparables that reaffirm the fact that that property is worth that amount. How much would that property be done once you are able to do the property up? Once you put a new kitchen, new bathroom in there, what are the comparables? What is the comparable sale price? What is the comparable rental price? And how much do you think you can get the property valued for? So these are all questions that you need to do with regards to vetting the deal. You vet the deal. So your deal has got to essentially make sense to you. And once you understand your deal, you mitigate the risk. So how do you mitigate that risk? You need to buy the property. You need to get finance arranged for that property. You need to have a deposit ready for that property. And then you need to basically refurb that property, put a new kitchen in, put a new bathroom in, and establish the new valuation for that property. Now, risk is mitigated by you actually overcoming all the problems that you're going to encounter. So, for example, you need to buy the property. You need to then have builders ready that are going to be able to do up your property. And then you need to have an exit strategy at the end. Are you going to sell the property? Are you going to refinance the property? Or are you going to just rent the property? So there's about 3 or 4 exit strategies that you need to have in mind. And what them exit strategies do is they mitigate your risk, they calculate your risk for you. So let's hypothetically assume this is a 2-bedroom property at the moment that you want to make into a 3-bedroom. Currently they are worth 100,000. If you were to make that a 3-bedroom property, you could potentially add around £20,000 worth of value on that property. So it's a matter of you going away, finding out what's your cost price, how much is the refurbishment going to cost you, if you can add another bedroom in there, and maybe once you've done that, your property may be worth 140, 150,000 pounds. Then you have another challenge of how you're able to refinance that money from that property, or whether you want to sell that property in order to tap into your capital growth, or whether you're wanting to just rent that property out, refinance it, and make it an addition to your portfolio. So risk is all about how you're able to mitigate that, how strong your plans are, how you're able to execute them plans, and then what exit strategies you have in place with regards to what you want to do with your property. Does that mitigate your risk for you? Hope that makes sense.
So how am I able to cultivate patience for long-term success in the property industry?
Yes, so you've obviously got a lot of patience in your professional football world. Patience in property is a given. If you're buying any property, if you look at it over the long term, you're not really going to go wrong. It's when people are a little bit more aggressive, they come into property, they hear it's easy money, and they basically go into developments. And that, I feel as though, is the main issue, is how aggressive people are. If you were to look at property over a long-term issue, even if you're buying a standard buy-to-let, they give you a fixed term period, you need to look at it over the fixed term period. You need to do your calculations, and basically you need to have the end goal in mind. So once you're buying the property, you're gonna have to be patient, because it's going to take a number of months to buy the property. Then you've obviously got your aspirations as to whatever you need to do with the property, i.e. let's say you're going to refurbish the property. You need to be very patient with the builders. You need to interact with builders, plumbers, central heating people, electricians, roofers. These are all people that are going to potentially test your patience, really, because they're not always going to say what they do and stuff like that. So during the actual renovation process, purchasing process is going to be a level of patience. During the renovation process, you're going to have to be patient with your builders. You're going to have to be patient to get the desired outcome that you want. And then once you've obviously done that property up, what exit strategies are you going to go for? Are you going to sell the property? Are you going to refinance the property? Are you going to rent the property out? Whichever way you do it, let's say for example you're renting the property out, you'll have made a level of money with your refurb element that you've introduced at the beginning, and then you need to rent the property for, let's say, a 5-year period. Over the 5 years, you're going to receive a level of capital growth on that property. So literally, patience is attached to the property game, really. You're having to be patient throughout the whole journey. Being patient, being able to digest things, and having the right exit strategies in mind will make you very successful. So patience is something that is required in order to cultivate success in property, really.
I have a property at the moment, but I am wanting to advance my portfolio, maybe 2, 3, 4 more over the next coming year. How am I able to adapt a growth mindset in property investing?
Adopting a growth mindset is very important in any field of work that you're in. How do we link this to property? We need to do something that the average person isn't doing. How are we able to grow you? So you've got a couple of units of accommodation at the moment, you've got a couple of houses that you mentioned. How can we scale you from to 10, 15, 20 properties? We need to have goals in mind. We need to have a level of self-discipline. We need to have a level of resilience, and we need to basically reaffirm our goal on a daily basis. How do we get to 15 properties? For example, you've got 2 properties at the moment. My question to you would be, how can we get you to 15 properties? You need to view 15, 20 properties. You need to identify 15, 20 deals that you can potentially, that make sense to you, that make sense to your business model. So, and then you need to be resilient. There's going to be other people that are going to be wanting to purchase them properties. You need to basically do all the comparable information, know what the property is worth, try and get the property for the price that you think it's worth. If it's worth a little bit more, you might need to be a bit flexible, a bit more adaptable in order to do that. Where if you are paying a couple of £1,000 more for the property because you've got somebody competing with you there, what can you give inside that property that will basically give you some value back? So growth mindset is linked to goals, it's linked to self-discipline, it's linked to a level of resilience, and it's linked to achievement. So once you start achieving things, the growth mindset will take care of itself. Today you've got a couple of units of accommodation. You can adapt that growth mindset in order to see how you can get the returns on your property. So currently, how are you renting your property?
Standards, AST.
AST. So a growth mindset would be, is maybe you can look at servicing that property. Maybe you can look at putting it on serviced accommodation. Maybe your growth mindset is able to improve the kitchen, improve the bathroom. Running a serviced accommodation unit is like having a hotel. Can you grow your mindset in order to manage a serviced accommodation apartment similar to one that you've got? Can you deal with people in the hospitality trade? Can you grow your mindset in order to understand that business model and to actually execute your property as a serviced accommodation unit? What are you going to need to do? You're going to have to speak to other portals. You're going to have to speak to the booking.coms of this world, the Airbnbs of this world, do some numbers about what is feasible for you on a nightly basis, what you need to break, how you're going to be able to achieve these figures. So as opposed to getting a normal AST income, you can make more of a lucrative income. But in order to do that, your property needs to reflect your growth mindset. So your growth mindset can be applicable to you improving your properties. How are you going to get to 15 properties? Do you have the deposit money in your own bank account?
Yes. I'm wanting to adapt to growth mindset.
So a growth mindset would be you actually having to raise money, so you know you can make. So for example, if your standard AST is making you £800, if you're making £1,300 on serviced accommodation, that's giving you some income back in your pocket. So your rental side, you've maximised and you're growing. How can you get to 15 properties? You mentioned you've got a couple of properties at the moment. How are you going to get to 15 properties? Where are you going to get the investment from? Have you got savings yourself?
How can I raise money?
So I'll give you an example. You're a professional footballer. You obviously meet a lot of people that are well-to-do. Your contract at the moment, I don't know what it is, but you're obviously getting a certain income. Why don't you amalgamate your growth mindset that you have in football and bring it into property? How are we going to get to 15 units of accommodation? How much money do I need in order to get 15 units? How much is a deposit of a normal house? What's the average price of the house that you've got at the moment?
Around 250k.
£250,000 will buy you 10%. You need about £70,000-80,000 in order to have any of them units really, and then you need to have exit strategies. How are you going to raise that money? How many investors do you need to speak to in order to raise that money? Do you understand the model competently? Are you able to convey that model to fellow investors in order to basically sell yourself to them so you're able to acquire investment? Have you been to any networking events to acquire investment? So a growth mindset is basically you saying to yourself, you're consistently wanting to grow, you're not happy with what you've got, you're wanting to grow it, excel it, and then you have like-minded people that you surround yourself with, and you're able to basically adapt that growth mindset into your being on a daily basis. And I'm confident that the universe will be able to give you downloads in order to grow yourself.
So how am I able to develop strong networking skills within the property industry?
Good questions. Strong networking skills are applicable in most industries, but if you specifically look at property, and networking skills. Let's say you've got a very wealthy professional footballer. He's obviously, if he's a good footballer, he's going to have a lot of disposable income, and if he's got half a brain cell, he's going to invest that income for his latter years. So let's say a doctor does really well, he has disposable income, he needs to park his income somewhere. So every industry that people do well in, what I must say is money finds its way into property. So let's say you're a footballer and you've got disposable income, you want to park your money, you might want to do some risky investments on the stock market, but if you want a bit of a safe haven, bricks and mortar, you know your return, you've got something tangible, you've got something there that is being through the test of time, you park your money in property. So networking skills, how are you going to convey that to people? So networking skills, you need to expose yourself to these environments where you're able to meet these high net worth individuals, these people that have disposable income, that want these returns, and then you need to basically be able to network with them and sell them the concept that you're the best in your industry. You know exactly what you're doing, this is what you're doing, this is your previous history, this is what you're looking to do. And building a relationship can take years. You might have a relationship with somebody, or you might network with somebody for up to 6 months, a year, until you've actually made them into a genuine lead, made them into a client, they see your vision and things like that. So yeah, the saying is your net worth is your net worth, which I also resonate with, but you need to create that network in the property industry. You need to be collaborating with other investors. You need to be leveraging all your connections with your property deals. If you've bought a property with somebody recently that you mentioned, you need to network with that agent. You need to establish that relationship with that agent and see if that agent is able to give you any more deals, see if he's able to give you any more referrals. You mentioned you've got an appetite to do rent to rent. You basically, again, it's a matter of you meeting 50, 100 landlords, understanding their aspirations, see if your aspirations are aligned, and be able to develop that actual network. So what I would say to you is just go away. You probably need about 50 to 100 people that you need in your black diary, and over the next 6 months to a year, let's see how we can potentially develop that network up. Be genuine, give people genuine advice, give people genuine value where they're able to go away, understand the value that you've given, and if you are giving people value, they will find their way back to you. So strong networking is get yourself out there, get yourself out to these events, get yourself out producing content, get yourself touch as many people as you want, and then essentially develop relationships with them people.
Okay, so I view a lot of properties, I speak to a lot of people, I do a lot of things, but I can't make my final decision as to what I want to do, which one I want to purchase, how I want to go about it. Have you got any tips on how to make decisions, how to make good decisions? How does it sort of work to be in the property industry?
With me, to be fair, I'm a big believer in intuition, gut feeling. So some people, you can have I have a JV person, and one of my partners, he's actually a chartered accountant. He likes to see spreadsheets, he likes to see numbers, and then he makes his decisions. I do an element of that, but then I believe in the value that I bring to the table, and I'm able to process my decision making. So let's say, for example, one of these properties that you purchased, what's the reason why you didn't follow through with the property? What's the reason why you didn't, for example, leave an offer or try to buy the property?
Didn't have the money.
So the money element is something that you've got to measure before you make your decision. You can't make your decision because you've not got all the factors involved here. So let's say, for example, you want to buy that property. You need to have a decision that you need to buy that property. Once you said that to yourself, and your subconscious has accepted the fact that you want to buy that property, we need to start making decisions as to how we're going to finance that property, how we're going to basically go about doing whatever we need to do to the property. So decision making is linked to your subconscious, it's linked to you being brave, courageous, your fear. So would I be right in saying your decision making isn't coming out because you're a bit fearful?
Yes.
Well, believe it or not, courage comes from the same place. So you need to maybe remove the fear from the parking space that you've got it in there, and you need to park courage there for a while. What courage will do is it'll, just like, for example, you're playing football, you're going past people, you have to be courageous to go on a run. Let's say we're buying a property, we're also going to have to be courageous and go on that run. What we're going to have to do, we're going to have to find the right property, we want to buy it, we want to basically establish the refurb. What's going to give you confidence in your decision making is knowing that I'm bigger than this situation. I can buy this property, I can refurb this property, I can rent it out, I can take all my money back out, or I can sell the property for a profit. It's you. Your subconscious is basically the energy that's going to power you into making that decision. And once you've made that decision, people tend to turn off. You can't go relaxed, you need to go super aggressive, and you need to execute that decision in a way where it can only be successful. And that's the sort of energy that you're able to put in there. No question marks about you being able to question yourself. You've already got a couple of properties, you know you're successful, you can do it. You move forward with a fire in your belly and an aggression that I'm going to buy it, I'm going to do it up, I'm going to refinance it, or I'm going to sell it and I'm going to make my money. And that's the drive. And in the meantime, just to make sure that you're not messing up, get a couple of mentors like myself on board that can reaffirm your decision making, make sure you're doing the right thing, that you're aligned, and then you can channel your energy into making that decision a success. Any decision isn't necessarily successful or isn't good or bad. It's the type of energy that you've put in it. For example, if you buy the property and decide to relax and not do a lot, that's going to be a bad investment. But if you buy that property and do it up and get an exit strategy in place and get a tenant in there and sell it on and do everything nice, then that's a good decision, because you've not only you've executed your vision. And if your vision's a positive one, you're going to be making money. So decision making is based upon you being aligned with your subconscious, making the decisions, and then having the energy to be able to back it.
So would you relate that back to risk taking? Risk taking.
It's only a risk. So we go to the fact that we mitigate the risk. How do we mitigate the risk? You shouldn't have a problem with your third property because you've already got two properties. You've already got the experience on them properties, all that decision making, all that emotion, all that trauma, all that nervousness that you felt it in the past. You're already successful now. You've got a couple of properties, you've done all the right things, you kept me in line, we got the builders there, we got it executed. God, we made £15,000 on your first property without you actually having to do anything. So you need to take them best practices from them properties and be more courageous. Remind yourself that I've been successful with this, I'm more courageous where I can do bigger things than this, and then align yourself with your subconscious, and then have that belief, let your subconscious bring them things into your field, and you have that energy to be able to execute these projects.
So it's naturally, the more you do, the better decisions that come.
So for example, you're a professional footballer, you went through the schooling system, you played for your school, you played for your academies, now you played for the youth level. From the youth level, you decided to, basically, you didn't want to aspire to the youth level under 23s, you wanted exposure to football. You went to professional football in Dubai, you went to professional football in Georgia, you're going to get a professional football contract in Gibraltar, you're looking at aspirations to join the Premier League or to get European football. Every single time you're making yourself uncomfortable, the universe is realigning you, you are adapting to your growth mindset, and you are achieving things. The more lucrative contracts that you get, the more properties that you'll essentially be able to buy. And because you've done a couple, you're completely aligned. You just need to get the exposure to the right products that you want, make informed decisions, and let the universe align you accordingly. But you need to have the energy to be able to do all this. Just like you've made yourself successful in football, you need to bring that success growth mindset into property.